A beautiful thing to share experiences, artistic experiences in particular, and I'm glad you're here to do that with us tonight. And in that vein, and to prep ourselves for the panel, I just want to pause for like 20 seconds and think about a moment from the film that really captivated you. And I want to encourage you to hold that and touch that, experience that again, and potentially listen for that to be talked about in the panel. And if it's not, maybe that's an indication to ask a question about that. But I'm just going to give us about 20 seconds to kind of settle in here, think about the film that you just experienced, and we'll step into our panel from there. All right, we're going to introduce our panel here. I'm going to start with Nancy. Nancy Proctor is a very dear friend, but is a platform builder here in Baltimore, allowing communities and individuals to tell their story. And I'm glad you welcomed us here tonight. I'm going to go this way down our chairs here. We have Richard Yeagley, also a very good friend, was the director of our film that you saw, and is traditionally in the role of an observational documentarian. So I'm curious to see where we get to hear him talk about that versus this experience.
It does a little bit bring tears to my eyes. There's a scene where the two of us are performing the declaration. And when we were working on the film, I remember telling Richard, when you're this young Black man and you haven't achieved all I've achieved, and you're telling yourself that you can, you're like convincing yourself that you can do things that no one else has seen, right? And so where we are in this world where you have so many just young men who feel lost, there's so much where I feel we need to better inspire just people. To me, that's the moment that encapsulates what it really feels to revisit this younger self, but also more importantly, look at how all of our stories for those who've made it through, who've been able to conquer all types of hurdles, the responsibility we have to really make sure that people understand there's a roadmap toward moving forward. And this is for artists who are in this room. There's something that you gain when you touch people in ways that no one else can. I've written poems for funerals, for weddings, for major events. But once you touch people in that place, like they always have a connection with you that can never be taken away. And so I've used that same power in every city that I've worked in to connect in Los Angeles and New York and Pittsburgh and now here to really understand, like, how do I actually connect with people outside of the transactional work, outside of the things that people expect, so that we can really build that community as a family, right? Mm. And then from there, the work flows. Mm. And so I do think I show up as an artist first, and I think all the artists who have that type of connection with people know what that feeling really represents.
Mm-hmm. Mark, first off, beautiful, beautiful piece of work that you've created. As far, it was a line I'm paraphrasing, but you mentioned poetry being a path to your peace. It really just gave me chills when I heard it. But I wonder now, as you've grown in your work, is peace still the destination, or does it feel like a point of origin? How has that changed for you?
I think it's both. Like I've been writing, even if I haven't published things, I have a catalog of writing that I've written since. And what's beautiful with this, I mean, this is stuff that's been sitting on a shelf for 20 years. And you can recreate it now with all the different technology and multimediums and other artists to bring things back to life. And I think that's something that when you really see that power, you don't want to not invest in it. And so I use it for myself and for others, right?
What is that roadmap that you're looking at today for the next 20 years?
I don't think I've been through that process yet.
Oh, you're still writing it?
I think what you see, though, was, and maybe this is why I thought it was important to explore that specific era in my career. and in my coming of age. There's something special, I think, for all men. Like I said, when you're at that turning point of like stepping into adulthood, you have to decide, like, does the weight of society sit on me? Does the past that like I inherited sit on me, or do I break through those things? And for me, it was like, by the time you get to acoustic prayer, and I outline all these different instruments and all these different things that are like in this chorus of noise that you have to find peace within. You can't necessarily stop the noise, but you can control how you find peace within it. And so that moment took a lot of time and a lot of work. I think where I am now, kind of at that mid-age life, I'd have to go through a multi-year journey to do the same thing.
Thanks for the question. So, I mean, we started just with the performance, which is actually, I don't know if you're fine revealing this, is Scott Burkholder's house. We wanted it to be as intimate as possible, and we shot that in a verite fashion. We had 3 cameras, which is more than typically I would work with, but we wanted to have as much coverage as possible. In the room, I think you read like 25, yeah. So we definitely cut down, and we did a little bit of prep work to kind of find the best poems that resonated with me, that you wanted in there, but also that kind of told, that had an arc within it. And that was always kind of a struggle in the prep. But going in, I always knew, like, if it was just a poetry reading and it was just observational, it was, particularly if it was 25 minutes long, it was going to like lack, a visual pizzazz and might be a little slow. So, that was actually a process that came up a little later, and getting all these other elements, like Ziaire's character is to a lot of people, when I started, I thought it would be more of like recreations, kind of a composite character for him as a young man. But actually the way it is, and this is contrary to what you said, Scott, is like, he actually, like, when he breaks out a character and you reveal this in the end, it's like the poetic repercussions and the telling of this story is for the younger generation. It's like, we gotta dig into that. And like Pedro Zamora, it's like same thing. Like, then like, child support check marks, you were like, I'm on a playground with my mom and she's alone. It's like, that's it, right? So there were a lot of these things that we just kind of like processed together to kind of just give it a visual element, to just kind of metaphorically kind of have like a B storyline over top of the actual verite stuff.
As a son of Baltimore, I love how you've made Baltimore your home. This question is probably more for Richard, though. What went behind the decision to reenact some of those scenes here in Baltimore?
Yeah. So 2 things. I mean, one, like I just said, I don't interpret them as reenactments of a younger version of Mark. It plays that way, and then it's like the reveal to me in the end is it's not that way. The second thing is logistically, I mean, just to be frank, like, to shoot anywhere else would cost much more money. But you didn't need to do that, though.
Yeah, I would say actually exactly what you said is exactly what I wanted. Like, for me, and maybe this goes to what I'm thinking 20 years from now, because I do also have this historic role, I'm thinking a lot about what legacy I leave in that role. And so in bringing my literary history into Baltimore, I thought it'd be amazing for this project to then tell that story through a Baltimore lens. And so the visuals lended themselves greatly to that. Now, my friends in Atlanta see it, they'll still remember young Mark. So you have me, speaking at the Bears event and other things, and with August Wilson. But then it really will be a mesh up of my new life in Baltimore. And I thought that was actually a perfect creative statement.
I had a question for Ziaire, if I may ask. So we've just heard that you're a poet as well as an actor. Are you also a dancer? I found your movements in the film just beautiful, very poetic.
Yes, as some would say, I can bust a move, I guess. Yeah, kind of like Mark, as it's shown in the film that he's a poet and creative. Everything creative I love to do. So not just poetry, but I'm also a big fan of musical theater. You can ask my mom. My mom's and my little brother are actually here, and I'm always singing. I was singing No Good Deed in like every song from Wicked on the way here. But yeah, I love everything creative. I make original superheroes and stuff like that just for fun. And yes, I do love to dance. I've done like some ballet, and I did like hip hop when I was really young. because it's always been, a big part of me is being creative and expressing myself. And I remember there was actually like maybe it wasn't an English project. There was some project I did where it was asking about storytelling and, kind of how that has manifested into my life. But when I was super young, even when I was like at my older brother's football games and the like, I literally was dancing for no reason. Like there was no music going. Obviously, it was a football game, so there wasn't any, music going. But I was always dancing, and I realize now, I just turned 21. That was storytelling then, and now I just have the vocabulary to kind of name it. So that's a long, drawn out answer to say that I've been dancing, huh?
It's beautiful.
I can add something to that. When we were filming, it's like we've had to find the specific style of dance because you wanted to do like voguing, but you did do like 2 or 3 versions of 2 or 3 different styles that were like all drastically different. So yeah, it's not just, you have a wide array of styles you can incorporate.
Okay, yeah, part of it too was to show his different talents. And so I was excited when we found him and just being able to like through the process, like let's show more of where he could be more visible as an individual artist. But with the Exactly Why poem, it's hard to get in someone's head. So I remember telling Richard that when you finally think you've fallen in love, you're just like in this bliss, right? So he's just dancing, he's like floating on air, right? And so the way it was shot and the way you were moving just encapsulated what I recall when I wrote the poem of just being like overly ecstatic about finally believing that this is the love I've been looking for. And so I thought it was a great merger of those 2 art forms.
Can you talk about a little bit the discourse between this journey that you've been on and the artistry to create this piece, right? Like, because I think if we're talking past the people in this room, right? Quite honestly, if we're talking to the young Black men who are out in Baltimore City right now.
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit of at least the style and what inspired that. And I know Richard had different versions of his inspiration as well. The barbershop poem, about 12 years ago, film producer, a guy named Jason Harper, used that poem to shoot a short film that won a Getty Prize. And so he told me something saying, your poetry is it lends itself well to film. And so that stuck with me. And so I've wanted to find other ways that with poetry it could then be translated over to film.
When I was thinking about coming of age, I loved music videos actually that had house settings. So one that stuck out to me was literally Janet Jackson's That's the Way Love Goes, where she was like introducing herself as a woman. And for me, I'm like, this is really the moment where I introduced myself as a man. And so there was a lot that went into the way the film came together. Nicholsy, Ziaire in the Alleys, that tends to be, whether it's Boys in the Hood or Stand By Me or Menace to Society, where Black men find this rite of passage, The Wire. Like all of those alleys are just these pathways toward adulthood where you either find drugs or dead bodies or a pathway forward. So all of that fueled every artistic element you see in the film. That said, I want this to be accessible to all. And I think there's power in this community in particular in having Black leaders who young people can see themselves in that journey. And I will say the more successful I've become in my career, the less I feel younger Black people can see themselves in my journey. And that's been something that's bothered me, right? And so I want to do more for people to say, I can be like him, or I can follow that kind of path, or I can break boundaries the way he has. And I think art, film are a great platform to do that. Yeah, I think you got to meet them where they are, right? On social media, on the internet, at schools, all of those things are where they meet people. One implicit message in this is the Atlanta community was very nurturing. I don't know if Baltimore does that well. And that's something that was clear to me. Like we set a table, but we don't set seats for people to be in the room where the tables are set. And that's something, in coming here, I'm like, this is functionally different than the environment that I grew up in. And those are the kind of things I think we can change.
What I hear from a lot of the young people are that when people are in a position, a lot of them are willing to kind of maybe advise, but they don't actually show you the actual way. So what this called is a lot of things going around as gatekeepers. Do you see that here in the city? Whereas there was a lot of gatekeepers and not actually trying to bring the youth on to pass the torch?
I don't see engagement. I don't, like I said, I feel, I saw the bulk of the people who are living in that document that I touch on, and even the sky, are people I've met, had conversations with, or were mentors. Coretta Scott King, Andrew Young, all these people I were naming because these were people who helped teach me that I could get to the level that I've gotten to. I don't know if we're a community where that happens. And that's something I think we can change. But it starts with all of us looking at how do we help create that blueprint for people. I've grown to the clout of piano keys, and I can silence those wrong oboes and tunes of tribulation, cellos on false judgment strings, even choruses of remorse that whisper shame into our lives in three-dimensional harmonization. I can silence it with just a wave of my hands to achieve the most indescribable and implausible silence known to man, a surround silence that awaits the commencement of my benediction, alone in unison with my guitar in hand to perform this acoustic prayer. Amen.